Please enjoy this ad-free episode as part of our Academic Integrity series sponsored by Pangram Labs, the world's leading AI detection tool. Try it out at pangram.com. That's pangram.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Alvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience, and we are back on another Academic Integrity podcast series sponsored by Pangram Labs. And of course, with me, as always, is the co-host who is the most. He is Bradley Emmy. He's the CTO and co-founder at Pangram Labs. Bradley, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Alvin. I'm much more in my comfort zone in my co-host role. It's great to have you back, Alvin.
Yeah. So from the previous episode, you took the reins over, and Jason Nicholson, VP of K-12 in Pangram Labs, you guys did a great job. It was awesome, fantastic episode. So if you missed that one, you definitely want to go back and check it out. But Bradley, I think you did a great job. And
so glad you're feeling better and back at 100%, Alvin.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's awesome. You know how we work, Bradley. We go right into it, right? This is how we do it at the EdUp Experience. So let me bring her in. She is Dr. Tara Giblin, and she's the Vice President of Instruction at Orange Coast College. Tara, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's great to be here, Alvin. And thank you, Bradley, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy you're here. Always appreciate you taking the time. We know you're busy, so we want to get right into it. First question is, tell us about, you, what you do, how you do it, and Orange Coast College.
I am here in Costa Mesa, California. It's Orange County, south of Los Angeles, and I'm at Orange Coast College, which is a 2-year college, about 20,000 students, and I am the Chief Academic Officer. That means I deal with all things related to instruction, from class schedule to working with faculty to overseeing and encouraging new initiatives that support student success in the classroom.
Wow, 20,000 students. So just a few students. That's all. That's not big
at all.
Just
a few students. Just a few.
All right. So thanks for setting the stage for us, Tara. So we are asking everyone this question because it is Academic Integrity Series. So we want to know, how do you define academic integrity?
I think it's fundamental to our role as academics, and it has to do with honesty and trust and integrity in the classroom. So building a relationship between faculty and students where we emphasize original work and accountability for the work that we're doing in the classroom.
Beautiful. Yeah. Short and sweet. I love it. I think that makes a lot of sense. So if my notes are correct, Tara, so your background is actually in the sciences, right?
It is. I actually was trained as a researcher in STEM, in environmental microbiology, actually. And then, like all good, hardworking faculty, I got tapped to move into administration. So I've been on both sides of the chalkboard. I've been in the faculty role and living academic integrity in the classroom, and now in the administrative role, trying to see how I can support our faculty in their classroom work now.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I think on the show, we've had a lot of people on that teach writing and language arts and the humanities, and obviously very top of mind right then and there, as language models and AI are all getting crazy. But yeah, I would love to hear a little bit about kind of your encounters with academic integrity through your career as a scientist. I think we definitely, I was at Stanford actually when the whole scandal in the Stanford neuroscience department broke out. So, academic integrity isn't the first thing that people think about when they think of the scientific community, but would love to just kind of hear about your experiences with academic integrity through the years.
Sure. And it's interesting that you mentioned that and mentioned that maybe there's a little difference between sciences and humanities. And it is, we're different in the way that we approach our work, although we all are really focused on original work and academic integrity. I think as scientists, much of our graduate work is in the laboratory setting where we're being trained by our peers, by our supervisors to have sort of a foundation of integrity all the time. We're always doing our own research. Someone's watching us all the time to make sure that's happening. And sort of the founding principles of scientific research are about original research. That's how we get our graduate degrees, is by creating our own work and publishing that work. And so as a scientist, it is ingrained in what we do. There isn't an easy way to shortchange the system or cut corners. And so it's just part of our foundational work. And this was a few years ago that I was trained as a scientist, and I have wondered how the world has changed for science with the introduction of, especially of artificial intelligence, and how it can augment the work that scientists do. And how scientists are being trained to balance their original work with the supplements that AI can provide for them and us.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think like one of the reasons that I got into machine learning and AI was because I really liked that in science, like, or in AI and specifically, like when you run the same experiment twice, you actually get the same answer, which is like just so nice. Like my biologist
no,
friends,
that's
I
not
talk
nice
to them,
at all.
they're
That
like,
takes the fun away from it.
yeah, the mice and the 32 well plates, like, all of that stuff is very very finicky.
Exactly. And that's and maybe that's part of being trained as a scientist. We don't expect to get the same answer all the time. We're trained and prepped for uncertainty and a little bit of chaos, and so that we look for that in our work and try to make sense out of the chaos just naturally internally.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think like it's a great topic, and I mean, we could just get into AI right away. I mean, since since it's so foundational to the discussion around academic integrity today, right? Like, I mean, I think like AI is just definitely making it a lot easier, like one, to plagiarize, but also two, to like fabricate data or like even make up experiments that never happened. Like AI is just like kind of really able to be used in this really like deceptive way, right? So like how kind of like do you think like kind of like in your experience, like with your students, like how are you teaching your students, like, like let's be good scientists, let's be honest, like, all these values that you mentioned in the intro, like kind of like how do you communicate that to your students these days?
I think that's the $1,000,000 question. And I think when we look out at the faculty world and what are faculty doing to try to help their students navigate this new reality, that's where the biggest frustration is coming from. Certainly there's a lot of frustration with the outcome, the cheating, the perception of cutting corners, but I think the underlying frustration is, how do we teach students to exist in this new world that's not going away? What tools do we have as faculty, as educators, that can help our students define what academic integrity is and define their own path to ensuring that they're staying on the path of sometimes more resistance, because it takes more work sometimes to create not sometimes, all the time. It takes more work to generate something yourself than it does to have ChatGPT, for example, help you generate that work. So faculty, I think right now, are hungry for those tools to help them translate this exciting development into their classroom. And I wish that I had a good answer for that. I think a lot of faculty that I see right now are trying to make peace with a new reality, trying to understand how they can use this tool, and also struggling at the same time with how do I write my own policies that put boundaries around what students can do to help them know their parameters, because often in a classroom, students need to see where the line between right and wrong is, and that's the faculty job to say, here's what we're going to do, and here's what we're not going to. And with my faculty right now, I see that that's where the challenge is. It's how do I define how this can be used? How can I teach my students how to use it in a way that's productive and continues to keep them learning critical thinking and originality, and to be able to challenge themselves. So it is the $1,000,000 question. I wish I had the answer.
Oh, no, I think that's a great answer. And I like that you brought up that, like, like it should be hard too. Like, I think like the ICAI, the International Center for Academic Integrity, like they're always talking about like, academic integrity is upholding the values like honesty, transparency, like trust, etc. Like even in the face of difficulty, like even when like it's hard to do so, like when AI could do something for you really easily, but you need to do it yourself because you need to be invested in your own learning, right? And so I like that you brought that up, that like, it shouldn't be like, oh, like, it like academic integrity is always the easiest thing, for a student or a faculty. Like, I mean, I think that's one of the big challenges when, it's so easy to use AI to like just offload all of your work onto.
It looks like it may be awfully easy to do that. And I think helping the students to define when it's okay to do that. And when they need to challenge themselves toward learning. So we helping the faculty to help their students to define what's the outcome of my class and what's the learning that I'm going to get in my class. So the homework can be just an outcome. It's a day-to-day something that we produce, but what have you learned from that homework? And I think someday when we can get to a point where we see homework as a learning tool, that will be better able to define what learning means in the classroom to the students in this new reality. It's just, I also hear a lot that we need to prepare students to use AI in the workplace. And I think we haven't really very well defined what that means either. What does it mean to use AI in the workplace? How won't they need to know principles of integrity and proper use when they get to the workplace to use AI as a tool? So I think we just have so many avenues to explore in terms of our new learning tools that exist. It's an exciting time, but also scary because it's a big change.
Absolutely. It's funny. I was like just scrolling like through my reels like over the weekend on social media, and like I got like, it's back to school, and so teachers are like, all on their TikTok and Instagram reels and whatnot, like talking about how like, how are they going to enforce their AI policy this year and stuff like that. And I hear actually a lot of frustration around the teachers that are being told by their admins like, oh, you need to teach your students how to use it. Like you need to teach your students like how to use AI effectively in the workplace. Because in many cases, the students are more effective at using ChatGPT than their instructors. Like young people are just insanely like fluent and literate like in all kinds of new technology. And so like I think there's like a lot of frustration when, people are being pushed into AI when it's like, okay, like actually like we need to be kind of like pulling the reins in. Like we need to be more setting boundaries and like teaching students like what are the actual skills that I need to learn that don't rely on me using AI, right? As opposed to just kind of like throwing our hands up and being like, oh, like, we need to teach our students like AI for the workforce, like all of this stuff. Like students already know how to use AI for the workforce, and they will use AI in the workforce. Like this is kind of just an inevitability. So hearing a lot of frustration there for sure.
And that's an interesting point because it is such a unique time. Has this ever happened when we have students in our classrooms who know how to use a tool better than the discipline instructors know that? So we have faculty in STEM and humanities and even in the performing arts, in the trades, who know their discipline so well. They know what it takes to be a good disciplinarian in their field. But we have students who know how to use this tool, and there's a mismatch. And when has that ever happened before, that the students know more about something than the faculty members do? So I think that is compounding the frustration. The students are headed out of the gate trying to use these tools and trying to apply them to the field when the faculty haven't yet decided how they want to apply those tools in the field. And I think there are some exceptions. I think particularly some of the hands-on fields, some of the technology fields, and at our college, that things like manufacturing, architecture, where there is already an element of computer-aided work going on. I think those faculty see more readily how to apply AI into their field. But I think the rest of us, me included, have some thinking to do about how we want the future of our disciplines to look with AI as a part of it. And that foundational work didn't get to happen. We didn't get to plan it and roll it out. AI just came onto us, and we're often reacting and often with frustration, like you mentioned, just frustration and anguish. I know how it felt when I was a faculty member teaching, and you pour your heart and soul into the classroom and your passion for your subject. And then when I would have a student who would cheat on an exam or on a more often on an exam. And in my case, I took it so personally. Why don't you love this subject and want to learn it as much as I do? And so I think there's a lot of that feeling too, that why would you want to cut corners on an assignment or paper or project? Why wouldn't you want to engage the way I do in it? And so it's an interesting time.
Oh, it's very understandable emotional reaction though. I think obviously like it feels kind of like academic integrity in general is kind of this contract between the instructor and the student. The instructor's like, I'm going to try my best to instruct you and make sure that you actually learn the material. And it feels very much like a betrayal when a student is just like rejecting that social contract and just being like, no, actually, like I really don't want to learn. I just want to kind of, skip all of this and just get my degree. So it's very understandable from the instructor perspective.
It is, and that isn't going to change, and it shouldn't change, because we're here as faculty members to make sure that you learn the discipline knowledge that you need, either to be in a career in that field, or if you're taking general education classes, to be a better citizen of the world. And so I think our passion as faculty and administrators isn't going to change. And so we have to come together with our students and figure out how that contract has changed, or how do we better communicate that social contract so we all understand what the parameters are to have a positive learning environment in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to hear a little bit about kind of like your practical experience on the ground. Like when instructors kind of come to you and they're like, "Oh my God, like AI is overwhelming me. Like, what do I do?" Like, kind of where do you start, and kind of how do you kind of guide your instructors, towards having that more kind of productive, co-relationship with their students in AI, as opposed to like kind of just being in this like ongoing like fight?
It's a great question. And I think it's one of the strengths of academia is that faculty often they explore the tools on their own with the guidance of administration. So my job is more to find ways at my level in my work to make tools available, to make resources known to them. Here's a workshop, here's a possible conference you could go to, here's a place where you could learn from your peers, and let the faculty choose from the resources that are available to them. So it's not ever really a situation where we mandate that something is be attended or a particular style be learned. And I think that is where some of the frustration for faculty is coming. Is I hear that faculty are really challenged, particularly in the humanities right now, with writing, with how to get students to engage in critical thinking, and the faculty can't find the tools. They can't find communities of their peers yet that can help them navigate the tools that are available to them. And so I'm starting to see more opportunities for faculty to engage with each other, but I'm hopeful in this coming academic year that we'll see more training, I guess, or professional development for faculty, because really how faculty learn best is from each other. What worked for you at your institution? How can I translate that into my work? So no amount of encouraging that I can do or can really make a difference until faculty hear from their peers. And the conversations so often now are focused on cheating. My students plagiarized this assignment, and I detected AI in their writing assignment. And what do I do about that? How do I turn it into a teaching moment when it's 20 students in the room who are doing this? And how do I navigate that? And that has trickled even into our academic integrity officer, who has seen about 1,000-fold increase in the reporting of plagiarism. And from that point, how does the institution then respond to such a dramatic increase in academic dishonesty? And where's the professional development for the institution so we can better manage student and faculty expectations in that situation? So I'm headed down my snowball is getting bigger and bigger as it rolls down the hill, because all of these concerns are intertwined. Academic integrity starts out as something in the classroom, that in that social contract that you mentioned, but it it gets bigger and bigger as it impacts the institution and how we respond, and ultimately ensure student learning. We want to give students a degree or certificate or a moment of completion when they've learned something, not just when they've finished all the assignments that they were supposed to do. And that's our philosophical question that we're grappling with right now at our institution. And across the community colleges, I think I was attending the something called the Curriculum Institute that we have in California, and that's where the state academic senate talks about all matters related to the curriculum. And there were several sessions led by faculty talking about AI in the classroom, and a lot of those faculty-led conversations centered on policies. How do we define what academic integrity is now in our classroom in the age of AI, and how do we manage AI? So faculty are starting to have these conversations across the state, and we just need to keep having them as the years go by and our world evolves.
Definitely. I love that you mentioned that like everything is like intertwined together, because I mean, I think a lot of people, when they just hear the words academic integrity, they're just like, oh, how do I stop students from cheating?
Right.
But it's like so much more than that. It's like, it's creating this whole culture and this whole like, and it starts from the instructional design too, right? Like just the way that you design your course, the way that you communicate with your students, like all of this stuff, it's all related to academic integrity. And I think that's, you can't really have a discussion about cheating without having a discussion about kind of the whole picture. So I love that you brought that up. I think that makes a ton of sense. I know you also mentioned that like, faculty are starting to kind of like learn from each other and, kind of guide each other on kind of like the AI, and that's like really helpful. Like, are you hearing any like big success stories? Like, are there any kind of like faculty that have really been, in your opinion, like very successful at it? And kind of what does like a successful like AI classroom kind of look like?
I think the biggest successes right now that I'm hearing about are actually probably small successes where faculty have said, all right, I see that I can't do writing prompts in my marine science class the way that I used to do them. So I'm going to try something different. I'm going to work with AI and ask students to use AI to generate a good prompt, or they're going to try several different prompts for this broad assignment and see which one gets them to the information that I'm hoping that they're going to get to through this assignment. So in classes where maybe writing is not the biggest component of the class, but it's part of the creative process in a larger picture, I'm hearing faculty dabbling in partnering with AI to try to guide to students to use it as a tool. I think those are the biggest successes. And for those faculty, it does feel like success. Like, okay, I took something that wasn't working and I turned it in to something that is working. And that's what faculty do all the time anyway. Even without AI, you're in a classroom and you find that a particular way of delivering an assignment or delivering a topic isn't working. You modify what you're doing to make a better connection with the students. And just like you mentioned, it's part of the ever-evolving instructional design that goes into our classrooms. The faculty always has to self-reflect on what's working this semester, what can I do differently next semester that might work a little bit better. So I wish I had a large-scale success story, but there, I think it's little inroads. Another thing that I'm seeing a little bit, hearing from faculty, is that the integration of chatbots into their Canvas shell. So a lot of faculty are very worried about students using AI and having it pull information that's incorrect or information that doesn't really relate to that particular class that the faculty is teaching. So there are new tools, it looks like, where you can design something in your Canvas shell that will just draw from your own classroom materials, things that you've presented to students, and be that 24/7 resource. A student can ask a question and the chatbot will answer using just the instructor's material. And so I'm hearing a little bit of success there, although it's a lot of front end work to create those kinds of materials, but hopefully with long-term success.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I think it was just like a few days ago that Canvas and OpenAI like actually announced like a formal partnership. I guess, do you have like a hot take on that for our audience?
Well, I'll only say that when I saw the email that was happening, and my first feeling was a little bit of feeling of panic because because some of the things that I think, how can I say it? None of us likes to have some blanket action happened onto us in our Canvas shells. And so I think it will take a little bit of time for the rollout for faculty to see how they might engage with OpenAI if it is available in their Canvas shell. So I'll be hopeful for the future, but a little nervous right now.
Yeah, for sure. Because I guess the idea here is that like when the instructor is kind of like involving a chatbot in their course, like they have full control over it, and they kind of like, can I guess like dial up or like dial down the amount of assistance that students are receiving versus just unbridled chat GPT, like, then that's when instructors kind of panic. Is that kind of your sense of things?
Yes, that's exactly it. And I do think they're just like all of us in society, there are a range of levels of acceptance for something new. And so while we have the 10% early adopters and the 10% of people who are saying, no way, I'm never going to use that, we have to give some time for that 80% in the middle to see how the tool might work for them. And so we just have to go slowly and be patient.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think this is kind of everybody. Like, everyone's kind of like, yeah, like you're going to have the extreme ends of the spectrum that are like very pro or like very anti. But by and large, a vast majority are just kind of dipping their toe in the water, like seeing how it feels, and, seeing what works and seeing kind of what isn't working. So I think that's a very, very reasonable approach.
Yeah. I think it's harder too because I didn't learn this way. I didn't learn with that kind of assistance. I think I went to college and I took a typewriter with me to college. And so a lot of us teaching are trying to understand what does it look like from the student's perspective when you have this range of tools, you have the world at your fingertips. How does the student experience all of this? And we're, as faculty and administrators, sometimes a little flat-footed because we don't know what that looks like. And so we'll catch up because we're smart, but that adds an extra layer of skepticism, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned that Orange Coast College, a 2-year college, right? And so like I'm sure that like, with the students too, like I mean, they also like community college students are like the busiest people alive. Like they have like so much going on like outside of school. Like often they're trying to like balance like jobs and stuff like that. And so do you have like kind of like a lot of like part-time / like online students that are also kind of like juggling these other responsibilities, and like kind of like how do you approach designing the right curriculum for them?
Yeah, that's a great point. We do have probably half of our students are attending part-time. They're single parents, they're returning students, they're in the workforce already and looking to rebuild their skill. And I think that does complicate the question of how do we look at technology use when we know our students are pressed for time or they have multiple priorities. We have a lot of students who are trying to move quickly through our system, our 2-year system, to get to their transfer institution, to get to their destination. And we want to balance their need for speed with our understanding that they need to have learned a baseline foundation of content before they move on to transfer. And so I think broadly in the community college, we're just looking at a lot of ways to help those students with alternative delivery methods, 8-week courses, short-term programs, online classes, like you mentioned. And I think the advances in technology just make it more possible for us to find new ways to meet those students. But since the pandemic, I think we've just faced a lot of change in the type of students we have, the expectations that students have about their education and about the flexibility of education. And those things are compounding the question of academic integrity involving AI in the classroom, because I read a quote recently where things are changing so fast and they'll never go this slow again. And I think we're all just trying to wrap our head around that concept of juggling all the things that are important right now for our students.
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's so interesting. I think like AI does have a lot of potential to help like a really diverse body of students. Like I mean, I think like the way that I've seen some educators using AI is just like truly amazing. Like they'll take like a worksheet and then they'll have the AI like dial down the reading level or like move up the reading level, like like stuff that used to take people like hours, like now, it's just at the fingertips. So, I mean, I think there's so much potential for it to help students. But at the same time, I mean, I think like when you have students that are pressed for time, like that also just adds so much time pressure. And, like students under pressure, like will be tempted, to make the wrong decision, the wrong academic integrity decisions when they're put under stress and pressure. And so I think like there's definitely some balance here of like, okay, yes, you want to learn as fast as possible, but you also want to make sure that you're actually learning and retaining. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think because of the high emotions surrounding academic integrity and cheating, I think we've maybe forgetting to look at the AI as a tool. And I'm thinking specifically about the ability of AI to help tutor, like you just mentioned, taking a worksheet and increasing the level, lowering the level, or explaining difficult concepts. Certainly, it's not ever going to replace a human being tutoring, but at 1 a.m. when a student has a question about what a particular, I don't know, conjugation in Spanish might look like and why, is that a place where AI could be supplementing what we're doing, where you don't necessarily need a human being in that moment. So I think with time, when the stress of the moment dies down, we'll have a lot of potential for supplementing what goes on in the classroom, using AI too.
Yeah, I'm a little wary of like AI tutors. Just I feel like AI is not very good at like giving the appropriate level of assistance at the moment. Like it either like way over helps or like kind of like under helps in a way, and it's very difficult for the instructor to like control the amount of help. It seems like very like, and if you give the wrong amount of help, then it's completely counterproductive. Then like, then no
That's
learning is
true.
happening at all. And so like maybe this is just one of those things where like hopefully the technology will just get a little bit better and like, the instructors will have more control about like giving guidance without giving somebody the answer. But right now LLMs are just like so optimized to just be like as helpful as possible. And so it's very difficult to like use them pedagogically, I feel, at least at the current moment.
And I think you're exactly right. And I think that's part of the challenge, is that the student asks a question and they get paragraphs with an answer instead of just a little bit of guidance. And I think that's where the frustration is coming from right now for students who just go right out to ChatGPT. So maybe there is promise in the tools that are being designed that faculty can customize themselves. So let's hope so.
Yeah, or at least if they're put kind of in a kind of like a better scaffold. Like I have a friend right now that's like designing like this AI chemistry course, where he's like, like basically just trying to teach AP chemistry like with a tutor that's like kind of like going along with the material through you and like explaining difficult concepts. And he's really struggling to get the AI to not overhelp, like because it's just so helpful, like inherently. um, yeah. So
And it goes back to that question that we talked about earlier, that point that the goal of learning is to build up our knowledge as students. It's not just to finish the assignment. It's not just to get the answer, but it's to learn how you get to an answer. And I feel like, this is me personally, that in our fast-paced world, all of us want the answer immediately for everything, and it's there for us. And so this is another reality that particularly our younger students are living in, is as teachers, as faculty, as administrators, how do we kind of get back to basics and remind our students that the outcome is learning, the goal is learning, is to know the principles of AP chemistry, not just to get all the answers right. And I think that will be part of the next 10 years of education, is trying to reimagine how we convince our audience that that's what's important, that it's not just the grade, but it's the actual learning that matters.
yeah, For sure. And like it's funny, like we were just talking last week with Dr. Jonathan Zimmerman, and like I love this like analogy that he used. He's like, we go to the gym to get stronger, not to move the weight from point A to point B. If you like, like if you just had a robot like go to the gym and like lift the weight for you, then like that's not doing anything for you. It's like we have to convince our students that like, okay, we go to university, we go to college so that we can get stronger intellectually, so that, we prepare ourselves for when we enter the real world. And, we have to actually put those skills into practice. If you just have somebody moving the weight, then you're not actually getting stronger. So I just kind of love that little trinket.
And the gym is a great analogy, and it's one that most all of us can relate to because it's hard work to go to the gym, and we don't always think about the payoff a year later, what that's going to look like for us. And
maybe that's why so many of us struggle to go to the gym.
Exactly. And I think we could take that as a cautionary lesson about education is we don't want to be like the gym. In education, we want to somehow instill in our participants that it is the process that's important and not just the outcome, and persisting through the process.
Yeah. I mean, motivation is a funny thing. I mean, I think so many of us, like, we try so many different ways of like motivating ourselves, and for all sorts of different people, that motivation comes from so many different places too. So it's really hard to just prescribe like, oh, like here's just like one silver bullet thing that I can say to my students to make them want to learn. Like education and learning, it's such a personal journey for everybody. And it looks very different for different students. And so I think yeah, like it's kind of why also like I think that like educators can't really be replaced by AI either. Like I think educators like really have that personal touch and like that personal relationship building with each student, and to kind of meet them where they are. Like that's so important. And yeah, I mean I think education isn't really going anywhere anytime soon, I think.
Absolutely not.
So
And
sorry to interrupt, Tara, but we're running up on time. So sorry. So I do want to ask you our last question. This has been a great conversation, by the way. Thank you so much, Tara. Fantastic questions as always, Bradley. Tara, here's the last question for you. What do you see as the future of academic integrity?
well, if I had that answer, I'd have $1 million. I think the future is ever evolving for us. I think we need to continue to work together, students working with faculty with students, as we reimagine how we uphold the principles of this social contract of honesty and communication and ensure that we don't lose that foundation in the classroom. So it's going to be evolving how we achieve academic integrity, but the definition isn't going to change. We need to stay honest and produce our own work in the classroom.
Absolutely. Well said, Tara. Well said. Absolutely. Yes. So with that, let me outro my co-host, who is the most. He is Bradley Amy, CTO, co-founder at Pangram Labs. Bradley, thank you as always.
Oh, this was a great conversation. Thanks so much, Elvin, and thanks, Tara, for joining us.
Absolutely. So let me outro you, Tara. She is Dr. Tara Giblin. She's the Vice President of Instruction at Orange Coast College. Tara, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you both. I appreciated it.
Absolutely. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.
Thank you for listening. This episode is part of our Academic Integrity series sponsored by Pangram Labs, the world's leading AI detection technology. Try it out at pangram.com. That's PANGRAM.com.